What's good with YouTube? Y'all already know Big Flocka with ACP, a convict's perspective, pushing the hard line, hoping everybody's having a positive weekend. We're going to start this weekend off with a banger. But before we do that, please hit the like, subscribe, comment if you're new. If not, continue to hit that like and subscribe, man. Hit that bell notification for future fire content. So, every once in a while I come across, certain stories that kind of make me look at the world for what it is and try to gain a better understanding what would take a young man to a place to where they feel the need to murder its ops or its rivals, and the victim being at a young age. And it's a case that just recently got settled recently. Okay, a Southern California gang member seeking vengeance on a rival after one of his own was injured in a senseless violence was sentenced to 25 years to life in prison after admitting to chasing down a 14-year-old boy and shooting him dead in a park as the boy begged for his life. Now, this case is almost 12 years old, right? Believe it or not. It was Gilbert Villanueva, 29, learned that his fate for the 2012 murder of 14-year-old Joshua Angel Burkiaga. Prosecutors announced in a news release. Villanueva pleaded guilty last month to one count of first-degree murder with a special allegation that it was for the benefit of a street gang. Now, this killing happened around June 27th, 2012, right? Villanueva and co-defendant Justin Patino went to a park, their faces covered with bandanas, and they approached their victims. They confronted Burkiaga, who had been at the park with his friends. The two men recognized the victim, pulled out revolvers, and fired at him as he tried to run. They chased him down while shooting at him until he fell. Then, when he was on the ground, still breathing, the killers fired more shots as he pleaded for his life. "Homie, please don't do this," he said, according to court documents. Now, you had two men that, well, they were young. They were on the verge of becoming men, right? 17 years old. And a lot of times at that age, you're influenced with, around that age group of 16 to like 22, right? But you got a 14-year-old. A lot of times, 14-year-olds that are trying to gangbang, they're kind of like hang-arounds. And they're trying to prove themselves, and they're still learning, how to earn their way in the game. And it's just unfortunate that they have to be exposed to this type of violence, and that people think that this is the way of living. I have kids at this age, and when I look at kids this age, I can't imagine how they would feel being shot at and then trying to plead for their life, and then the individuals still take their life. And as 17-year-olds, I don't see what makes a 17-year-old gun someone down and then shoot him cold-blooded right there on the spot. Basically like a contract hit style, gangland hit. That's not normal, but we've made it normal. Now, the ages of 17 to 29 hold the highest homicide rate in the United States. You are 10 times more likely to fall victim to a crime if you're 20 years old or under, as opposed to a 65-year-old or over. I always felt like the ages of 17 to like 22 were basically the hardcore years of individuals trying to earn their bones, and I thought always that had a big influence out there in the streets because your reputation meant everything. So therefore, the more work you put in, or the more you got down, the more you were recognized. So as that became basically the status quota of a young gang member of what he was trying to reach, you starting to see more extreme crimes being committed. Some of the violence that we're seeing is just unheard of. And if you notice, every time that you hear about these crazy ass shootings, right, where 3-4 people are gunned down that are gang related, there's always an older vato with them, that's maybe in their late 20s or 30s. My question is this: what happened to trying to sit there and lead the gente in a better direction? What happened to learning from our past mistakes in the 90s, where a lot of people caught hot ones, a lot of people caught robberies, and a lot of us got sentenced to long-term Buck Roger dates, right? What happened? People coming out trying to have more of an impact and influence, because you're not seeing it. All you're seeing is nothing but violence. That's it. You got kids out there 15 years old, right, with designer jeans and 30-round clips, whereas back in the days, yeah, sometimes it would be gunplay, right, but a lot of times it'd be also fist play. You weren't going to sit there and gun down someone cold-blooded, right? A lot of times it was when shit kicked off, hey, you handled your business, or the opposition knew what was coming. Retaliation has always been part of the gangbanging lifestyle, right? But, you picked and choose who you battled with. You weren't going into some vaudeville riot and knocking down a 12-year-old kid or 14-year-old kid because that wasn't going to be honored. And I'm not here to promote or advocate any type of violence, right? Because at the end of the day, you basically lost 3 lives for this situation. Now, the influences that you have on social media and the rap game and whatnot, it influences these kids, right? They hear about this stuff, and it makes them want to live up to a certain persona, right? So they can get that recognition. They could be looked at as a, most dangerous gangbanger and this and that, right? So as long as people are advocating that, these are the results you're going to get. Basically, kids are killing kids, and nobody cares because at the end of the day, if it doesn't affect you, then no one's going to pay attention to it. We're the veteranos or the uncles or the dads or the cousins that are taking the time telling these kids like, hey man, we get it what you're doing, you represent the hood and all that, right? But all this senseless active violence, man, maybe you want to rethink that. You know what I'm saying? Maybe there's a different way. You don't got those type of influences in these neighborhoods anymore, And we really never did. It's all talk. You know what I'm saying? People talk about it in prisons about helping the community and bettering their gente, right? But then they go back out to the streets and what do? Their actions are counterproductive because they're contributing nothing positive, only negative. I get it. Each generation needs to find its way, and you really can't have that much say in what they will or won't do, or what they should or shouldn't do. But at the end of the day, right, just a little bit more effort, to try to guide people in the right direction and steer them away from, like I said, a senseless killing. This act was basically senseless. A 14-year-old. How much of a threat has he become in that gang lifestyle? What was so important that he needed to be knocked down? It makes no sense, right? Now, I had many cellies, right, when I did prison that were in there for life. Most of them caught these cases between the age of 17 and like 23, right? I'm going to tell you guys right now, as they matured and were doing time, yeah, they represented what they represented and did what they needed to do, right? But not one of them did not regret the action that they took. Every one of them regretted it. And see, this is never talked about, to the homies in the hood or the kids out there that are trying to sit there and make their way. But it needs to be heard, because a lot of this shit that goes on, it's under false pride. It's under them feeling that they have something to prove. And a lot of them were given up on. And they gravitated towards the only thing that they felt that they could get the love and respect, which was from the homies in the hood. Therefore, they're going to do everything they can to make their hood look good, to defend it, to make themselves look good, to put in that work. What got me with this story, right, was that the kid pleaded for his life. Please, homie, don't do it. That got to me right there. Like I said, a lot of times when these murders happen, it's either they go out to put in work, or an incident happens, people are getting off, and someone decides to fire fucking off a gun or stab someone. But this was a little bit more premeditated, planned out. And when they caught one that they felt they got, they didn't ease the brakes. It makes it a lot different than most gang-related murders, where shit just happens on the spot and someone just gets killed. 17-year-old, 16-year-old kids that are planning to do this type of shit is fucking crazy. I've seen videos of parties where these kids are pulling out fucking AKs out of their fucking designer jeans and fucking Glocks with switches and 30-round clips, and they're just fucking unloading on each other. Way fucking more violent than when I was out there in the streets as a kid. So the other co-defendant on this case, Patino, who was arrested on October 3rd, 2012 as he was being released from juvenile facility, was sentenced to 50 years to life in prison in 2018. Now, both these cases, right, took about 6 years and 12 years to settle in the courts. I've never heard of a case taking 12 years to finally being a verdict rendered and a sentence. Now, the 14-year-old that lost his life, they say that he was a shy and quiet soul, but he was also a class clown, and he liked to cheer up and hang out with his friends. And he was just a kid just trying to find his way like most kids nowadays. Society throws you in a mix to where, you have to pick and choose what type of people you want to associate with. And a lot of times these are the invisible kids that are in society that don't know which direction they're going to go if they don't have the positive influences from home. Therefore, the most dangerous person in the room is always going to be that invisible child, because you never know what he's thinking or what he needs. Therefore, you never know what direction he may go. And it forces them to grow up way too early. And that's what society, the judicial system, the courts and whatnot don't understand, that a lot of these kids never really had a true childhood. They were robbed of it. They were influenced by so much other things in their communities, right? Because people, places, and things are going to dictate the direction a lot of kids go, whether they stand against the things that they're thrown into or whether they embrace them. Not every kid's going to sit there and say, oh, I want to go gun someone down and fucking, do a hit mob style, That's not normal thinking. But when you gravitate towards different things in your environment, like I said, people, places, and things will mold you and craft you into the individual you are. If violence is a way of life where you live, if you're recognized by how much work you put in, if you're recognized by how much money you have and getting it by all means necessary, you're going to start to fucking learn these skills and tools, because it's your environment. It's learned behavior. And like I said, until that cycle is broken and, these kids are showing a whole different way of life, the cycle's going to continue. But as we evolve into a different world, the shit's getting more nastier and it's getting more violent. Anyways, you got 10-year-old kids knocking down other kids. You got kids getting caught in the crossfire, You got 11-year-old, 12-year-olds that are, packing pieces and stealing it from their parents or getting high. And, this isn't the norm that we should want for our kids, man. So, like I said, man, this just isn't just one story. There's 1,000 stories just like this. Just for the record, you see the thumbnail? The individual on the left, that was the victim who died at 14 years old. The individual on the right, that was the individual, one of the individuals that was convicted and sentenced to 25 years to life. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this spill. With that said, I'm gone.